Okay, so get this. Today's deep dive. Well, it takes us down a rabbit hole where we question, like the seemingly unquestionable.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like what if those like massive organizations that we're kind of like supposed to trust,
Mm-hmm.
like governments and big health institutions, like what if they've gotten things wrong?
Mm.
Like what if their interests in public health, what if those don't always, line up?
Yeah.
You sent in some research on this, and let's just say I got some questions. It's
Ah.
fascinating, how these health recommendations, they become so ingrained.
Yeah.
Like we're talking decades of dietary advice, like
Mm.
massive industries built around these concepts,
Right, right.
shifting course. It's like
Yeah.
trying to turn a supertanker. Like the inertia is
Yeah.
enormous.
Okay, so let's talk low-fat craze. I mean, it feels like it's been hammered into us forever.
Right.
But the sources you shared suggest the science might be, a little shakier than we thought.
Yeah, the history here is interesting.
Back in the 1950s, Ansel Keys' 7 countries study
Right.
seemed to link saturated fat to heart disease.
Right.
And this really fueled the low fat.
Like this is where all the fat-free marketing and all that came from, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
now we're kind of like questioning this whole thing.
Exactly. Later research, it hasn't consistently backed up that initial link.
Mhm.
And, some experts now argue that the focus on cutting fat led to a surge in processed carbs and sugars,
Right.
potentially creating, different health issues, almost like we traded
Right.
one problem for another.
And speaking of trade-offs, some of the research you sent even suggests those healthy vegetable oils, that we switch to, they might have downsides too.
That's right. So we're talking soybean, canola, corn oil,
Right?
They're high in omega-6 fatty acids,
Uh-huh.
which some experts now believe can be pro-inflammatory.
Hold up. Inflammatory.
Yeah.
But aren't those the oils that we're always told, like, these are good for your heart?
Precisely. And this gets to the heart of today's, deep dive,
Yeah.
questioning these, long-held assumptions.
Right.
Were these oils truly a healthier choice?
Yeah.
Or did their widespread adoption, have unintended consequences?
Okay, so my salad dressing may not be my friend after all.
Yeah.
You've officially got me rethinking everything.
It's...
And what about salt? That was another biggie in the research you sent.
Yeah, salt's had a bad rap for decades.
Right.
Limit sodium, we're told, but
Right.
emerging research suggests it might be more nuanced than that.
But high salt equals high blood pressure, right?
Yes.
That's like practically common knowledge at this point.
While true for some, blanket sodium restriction might not be the answer.
Hmm.
Sodium is an essential electrolyte.
Right.
Our bodies need it.
Right.
Research suggests insufficient sodium can actually increase stress hormones, which can then, counterintuitively raise blood pressure for some.
Wait, so cutting back on salt could backfire and make blood pressure worse?
You got it.
This is wild. What else does the research say?
There's also evidence that low sodium can, negatively affect athletic performance, hormone regulation, even how our brains work.
Mind blown. So much for that whole salt is evil mantra.
Yeah, right.
What's fascinating here is that we've already got like potentially flawed advice on fats, oils, and salt.
Yeah.
Like, what are we even supposed to eat at this point?
That's where the research gets really interesting.
Okay.
Many sources point towards a whole food diet,
Okay.
rich in nutrient-dense options like meat, eggs,
Okay.
and yes, you guessed it,
What?
healthy fats.
So back to basics, kind of,
Yeah,
but with a deeper understanding of why those foods are...
exactly.
Okay.
Meat provides vital vitamins, minerals, amino acids.
Right.
Eggs, especially the yolk, are nutritional powerhouses.
Right.
And those healthy fats.
Yeah.
Think, natural options like butter, ghee, even tallow,
Okay.
consumed for centuries.
Right.
Rich in energy and nutrients.
Interesting. So it's not like feeling fat, but just choosing the right... Exactly. What I'm noticing is there's kind of a pattern here. It's like challenging these long-held beliefs that we've been told are healthy.
Precisely. And that requires, looking beyond the headlines and digging into the science.
Right.
Understanding the potential influence of various factors.
Okay. And speaking of influence, one of the research papers took us deep into the world of cholesterol and heart disease.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's more to the story than we thought.
This is where the complexities of, scientific research and potential influences
Right.
beyond pure objectivity, come into play.
Right.
For a long time, high cholesterol was the big bad wolf of heart disease.
Right. That's what we've all been taught. But this research paper is suggesting that it's more complicated.
Some researchers now argue that lowering cholesterol might not be the, be-all and end-all of heart health. Other factors like inflammation, insulin resistance, and lifestyle play a significant role, too.
So it's a bigger picture situation, not just about, obsessing over this one number.
Exactly.
Okay. But this paper also hinted at something else, right?
Yeah.
The food industry might be playing a role in shaping the cholesterol narrative.
Yeah, that's a concern some experts have raised. Allegations have surfaced that certain food industries have funded studies that downplay the risks of certain ingredients or, hype up others, all to protect, their market share.
Right. So it's like, if that's true, then the info that we're getting about, healthy choices, it might be skewed.
Yeah, and it raises questions about the objectivity of some research and highlights the importance of, looking at who's funding studies and, what their potential biases might be, essentially following the money.
Right. We need to know who's pulling the strings. Right. And this whole idea of, food companies potentially, influencing our health choices, it leads us to another, big theme from the research.
Sure.
The government's role in shaping dietary guidelines.
Absolutely. Government agencies like the USDA here in the U.S. Have tremendous influence over what people eat.
Right.
Their guidelines affect everything from school lunches to what we see on food labels.
Right. So if these guidelines are based on, flawed science or, influenced by industry lobbying, that's a huge problem.
It certainly raises concerns.
Yeah.
One source you shared criticized the USDA for, pushing grain-heavy, low-fat diets, even though, mounting evidence suggests those recommendations might be outdated.
So are you saying the government's giving us bad advice?
Not necessarily, but the source did question, whether the USDA's focus on certain food groups truly reflects, the latest and greatest, in nutritional science, or if, other factors are at play.
Now, this is a lot to digest.
Yeah.
We got, potentially biased research, powerful food companies, and government guidelines that, might not be keeping up with the science.
Right.
Where does that leave the average person, just trying to make healthy choices?
It means we can't take any single source of information at face value. We need to be informed, question assumptions, and look at things from multiple angles.
So it's about becoming our own, health advocates.
Precisely. And that means educating ourselves about nutrition, understanding how our bodies work, and making choices aligned with, our individual needs and goals.
Which is tough when we're bombarded with so much conflicting information.
I know.
That's why we're doing this deep dive, right?
Yeah, good.
Sifting through it all together.
Yeah.
Now let's talk processed foods. One source really went in on the potential harm of ultra-processed foods.
This is a growing area of focus in nutrition.
Okay.
Ultra-processed foods are essentially those that have been, heavily modified from their original form, often loaded with, added sugars, unhealthy fats, artificial flavors, and preservatives.
So we're talking chips, candy, fast food, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not exactly, health food. But this source went, deeper than that.
While convenient and, often tasty, there's increasing concern about their impact, on our health.
Right.
Research links a diet high in ultra-processed foods to, various health problems, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even certain cancers.
Okay, well, not surprising, I guess.
Yeah.
But what makes them so bad? Is it just empty calories?
It's more than that.
Okay.
They're typically low in nutrients, high in, questionable ingredients. And designed to be hyper palatable. They trigger our reward centers, leading to overeating, almost like they're engineered to make us crave them.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And if they're designed to be addictive,
it
makes healthy choices even harder.
It raises concerns about the role of food engineering in the obesity epidemic. And it highlights the importance of, understanding food labels and being aware of what's lurking in those processed options.
Right, because low fat doesn't always mean healthy.
Right, exactly. A food can be low in fat, but still full of, sugar, refined carbs, and other questionable additives.
Right.
It's about being informed, and knowing what you're putting into your body.
Lesson learned.
Yes.
Read those labels carefully.
Yes.
Don't fall for the marketing hype.
Right.
Now, this next topic is interesting. One source dug into the carnivore diet.
Okay.
All meat all the time.
Yes, the all-meat diet. It tends to, spark strong opinions,
Right.
both for and against.
Okay.
And this source presented it as a potential solution for a range of health problems.
Yeah. Like from weight loss to autoimmune issues to mental clarity.
Yeah.
They claim that it could help with, like, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems, I don't know, pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Isn't it dangerous to just, like, cut out entire food groups?
That's a common concern.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that the carnivore diet is very restrictive.
Right.
And not appropriate for everyone. It certainly goes against, mainstream dietary advice.
Right. But this source did highlight, like, anecdotal evidence from people who claimed, like, incredible results on this diet.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something to it.
There are definitely people who report, positive experiences. And some researchers are starting to investigate the, potential benefits of this approach.
Right.
But it's still early days in terms of, scientific understanding.
Okay, so maybe not as crazy as it sounds at first.
Yeah.
But I think I'll stick with my veggies for now.
Yeah, a balanced approach is always wise. And that's, a key takeaway here, isn't it? There are many perspectives on nutrition. Yeah. And what works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's about finding what works best for you.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works best for your body and needs. Sometimes that means, challenging conventional wisdom and exploring alternatives. And that's exactly what we're doing in this deep dive.
Yes.
But for now, let's take a pause.
Okay.
And come back to explore, even more insights from these sources.
Sounds good. Welcome back. Let's shift gears now and dive into a fascinating connection that kept popping up in the research you sent. It's the link between insulin, exercise, and fat loss.
Yeah, one source was really, like, eye-opening. It was an interview with, I think it was a scientist who studies insulin. Yeah. And they really, like, drove home how much insulin affects, how our bodies store and burn fat.
Yeah, insulin plays a critical role in regulating blood sugar. So when we eat carbs, our blood sugar rises. And insulin helps, our cells absorb that glucose for energy.
Okay, so far so good. But, like, how does this tie into fat?
Yeah, so here's where it gets interesting. When insulin levels are high, our bodies shift into fat storage mode.
Okay.
So insulin signals to our cells to, like, take up glucose, and any excess energy gets stored as fat.
Okay, so high insulin equals fat storage.
Yeah.
Got it. But what about burning fat? Like, how do we shift into, fat burning mode?
That's where exercise comes in. One of the studies you sent showed that during exercise, our bodies become more sensitive to insulin, meaning we need, less of it to manage blood sugar.
So exercise makes our bodies use insulin more effectively.
Exactly. And that's a key reason why exercise is so beneficial for weight loss.
Okay.
Not only does it, burn calories directly, but also improves our insulin sensitivity, making it, easier to burn fat over time.
Okay, that makes sense. But this research also mentioned something called insulin resistance. What is that exactly?
Insulin resistance is a condition where our cells become, less responsive to insulin signals.
Okay.
This means the body has to, produce more and more insulin to, keep blood sugar in check.
And I'm guessing that's not a good thing.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
Chronically high insulin, driven by insulin resistance, is linked to, a whole host of health problems.
Okay, like what?
We're talking weight gain, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, even some cancers.
Whoa. Okay, that's serious stuff. So how do we even know if we're insulin resistant?
There are, blood tests that can measure insulin levels.
Okay.
But some, telltale signs include weight gain around the belly, fatigue, brain fog, cravings for sugary foods.
Okay, good to know. And is there anything we can do to, prevent or even reverse insulin resistance?
Yeah, the good news is that lifestyle changes can make a big difference. Things like a healthy diet, regular exercise, adequate sleep, and managing stress.
Right.
Those healthy habits we always hear about.
Right, right.
They really do matter.
So back to basics again. But this research also suggests that, certain foods can be particularly bad for insulin resistance.
That's right, yeah. Foods high in refined carbs and sugars can spike blood sugar, contributing to insulin resistance over time.
So cutting back on sugary sodas is probably a good idea.
It's a good place to start.
Okay.
And it's not just, sugary drinks. We should also be mindful of, refined grains, processed foods, and even some fruits high in fructose.
Interesting. So choosing our carbs carefully can make a difference. Now, what about those healthy fats we were discussing earlier? Do they affect insulin?
That's a great question. Some experts suggest that incorporating healthy fats can actually help improve insulin sensitivity.
Really? So the fats we were told to avoid might be beneficial in this context.
It's a possibility that some researchers are exploring. Unlike refined carbs, fats don't spike blood sugar.
That's right.
And they may even, slow down the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream.
So a meal with healthy fats could help keep blood sugar stable and, prevent those insulin spikes.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of, considering the overall composition of our meals, not just focusing on individual nutrients in isolation.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Fats, cholesterol, salt, processed foods, the carnivore diet, insulin resistance, the role of exercise. What strikes me is it all kind of points to this bigger picture idea that, emerged from this research. Our health isn't just about what we eat. It's also about the world around us.
Absolutely. We're not, isolated beings operating in a vacuum.
Right.
Our health is intertwined with our environment.
Yeah, for example, one source really dug into the impact of environmental toxins on our health. It was pretty eye-opening. And a little unsettling, if I'm honest.
It's a topic that, often gets overlooked, but there's mounting evidence that exposure to, certain chemicals, pollutants, heavy metals can, disrupt our hormones, damage our cells, contribute to a whole range of health problems.
We're talking pesticides, air pollution, even the chemicals in our everyday products.
Right, exactly. And one, particularly concerning group of chemicals highlighted in the research is called obesogens.
Obesogens. That sounds kind of ominous. What are they exactly?
Obesogens are chemicals thought to disrupt our endocrine systems.
Okay.
The network of hormones that regulate metabolism, growth, and reproduction.
Right.
But they disrupt them in a way that can, promote weight gain.
Wait, so these chemicals could actually make us gain weight?
Yeah.
Even if we're eating healthy and exercising?
It's a disturbing possibility that, researchers are investigating. And what's, even more concerning is that obesogens are found in a wide range of everyday products, from plastics to food packaging to personal care items.
So it's not just about what we're consciously putting into our bodies, but also about, these hidden toxins that we're exposed to every day.
Right, exactly.
It feels like we're surrounded.
That's why it's, so important to be aware of these potential environmental influences and take steps to, minimize exposure whenever possible.
So things like choosing organic produce, filtering our water, being mindful of, the products we use in our homes, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's about, making informed choices and proactively protecting our health.
This research also suggested that our gut microbiome, those trillions of bacteria living in our digestive tract, plays a role in how our bodies handle environmental toxins.
Absolutely. The gut microbiome is a fascinating ecosystem that's increasingly recognized as crucial for overall health.
So those gut bacteria aren't just there to help us digest food. They also help our bodies deal with toxins.
That's right. A healthy gut microbiome can, help detoxify harmful substances, protecting us from their, damaging effects.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. But how do we even keep our gut microbiome healthy?
Diet plays a key role here. A diet rich in fiber, fermented foods, and prebiotics. Which feed, the good bacteria in our gut can help, create a thriving microbiome.
So eating plenty of plant foods is good for our gut, which in turn helps, protect us from environmental toxins. It's it's all connected.
Precisely. It's a, it's a great example of how interconnected our bodies and our environment
Right.
truly are.
this is a lot to take in, but it's
Yeah.
also like empowering to know that we have some control over how these, environmental factors affect us.
Absolutely. It's about being informed,
Mhm.
making conscious choices, and, advocating for ourselves and our families.
And speaking of like advocating, one source took a pretty critical look at the food industry and its role in, shaping our dietary landscape.
Yeah.
And it wasn't exactly a glowing review.
Yeah, the research highlighted, the aggressive marketing tactics
Yeah.
used by some food companies to promote products
Right.
that are often, laden with sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial ingredients.
Right. It's like those catchy jingles and the colorful packaging that's like
Hmm.
aimed at kids.
Yeah.
It's tough to resist,
Yeah.
even for adults.
And it's not just, about marketing to kids.
Right.
These companies are like masters at manipulating
Yeah.
our desires
Right.
and creating cravings for, foods that may not be good for us.
It feels like they're playing with our brains.
In a sense, they are.
Yeah.
They use, sophisticated marketing techniques to, like, trigger our reward centers
Wow.
and create a sense of, dependence on their products.
That's like unsettling.
Yeah.
It makes, healthy choices feel like this uphill battle against these powerful forces.
It's a valid concern, but the research also emphasizes, the importance of being aware of these tactics.
Right.
Making, conscious choices about
Yeah.
the foods we buy and consume.
So it's about like reclaiming our power as consumers.
Yeah.
And, voting with our wallets, like supporting companies that prioritize, healthy and sustainable practices.
Well said. And remember our, earlier discussion about the USDA's dietary guidelines.
Yeah.
This research suggested that their recommendations might be influenced by, their close ties to certain food industries.
So there's a potential conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Like if the government is promoting, food groups that benefit specific industries, it might not be putting, public health first.
That's a concern many experts have raised,
Right.
highlighting the need for, greater transparency and independent oversight when it comes to developing, dietary guidelines. We need guidelines that are based on, solid science, not industry influence.
Absolutely. But this source also pointed out another concerning trend, the increasing medicalization of health problems that might be, better addressed through lifestyle changes.
It's the tendency to, like, reach for a pill for every ill instead of, addressing the root causes.
Yeah, one example that stood out was like the focus on treating type 2 diabetes with, medication rather than like tackling the lifestyle factors that often, contribute to it.
Type 2 diabetes is often linked to, insulin resistance, which, as we discussed, is, heavily influenced by diet, exercise, and lifestyle choices.
Right. But this research is suggesting that the like emphasis on medication might be overshadowing the importance of those like lifestyle interventions.
It's a valid point.
Yeah.
While medication can be, necessary in some cases,
Right.
focusing solely on, pharmaceuticals without addressing the root causes can lead to a cycle of, dependency and mask the potential for, true healing.
So it's about like looking beyond the symptoms and addressing, the underlying imbalances.
Precisely. And this is where, a holistic approach to health comes in, one that recognizes, the interconnectedness of our bodies, minds, and environments.
And it empowers us to be, active participants in our own well-being.
Exactly. It's about becoming informed healthcare consumers, understanding the, risks and benefits of different treatments and, advocating for ourselves and our families.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From fats and cholesterol to gut bacteria and obesogens.
Right.
From the influence of like the food industry to the medicalization of health.
Yeah.
It's clear that there's a lot to consider when it comes to, our health.
There is.
What, like, stands out to you from all this?
What strikes me most is the sheer complexity of health and nutrition. It's not about, simple rules or one-size-fits-all solutions. It's about understanding the intricate interplay between our bodies, our environments, and our choices.
Yeah, it's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Yeah.
The more we learn, the more we realize how much more there is to, discover.
And that's what makes this journey so fascinating.
Right.
It's a lifelong process of learning, adapting, and striving to live our healthiest, most vibrant lives.
Yeah, well said. And before we wrap up, I want to revisit one more thought-provoking concept from the research. This idea of food as information that our bodies interpret and respond to.
That's a powerful way to think about food.
Yeah.
It shifts our perspective.
Right.
From simply seeing food as, calories or fuel to recognizing its profound impact on our cells, gene expression, and, overall well-being.
So it's not just about what we eat, but about, how those foods interact with our bodies.
Yes.
On a fundamental level.
Precisely. And this is where, the concept of nutrient density comes in.
Okay.
It's about making sure those calories are packed with the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other, essential nutrients our bodies need to thrive.
So a calorie from a processed snack isn't the same as a calorie from a nutrient-rich piece of fruit or vegetable.
Exactly.
They carry different, messages, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, focusing on whole, unprocessed foods is so crucial. These foods are naturally abundant in the nutrients we need to function optimally.
Right. So it's not about, demonizing specific foods or rigid rules, but it's about understanding how different foods impact our bodies and making choices that support, our overall health and well-being.
Well said. Food is, more than just sustenance.
Yeah.
It's information with the power to either, enhance or hinder our well-being.
I love that. Food as information. It's definitely something to chew on.
It is.
And it highlights the importance of being, mindful eaters, paying attention to how different foods make us feel, and choosing those that nourish our bodies and minds.
Wow, well said. But before we get too hungry thinking about all this delicious, nutritious food, let's take a quick pause and come back for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some practical takeaways from all this research.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground,
Yeah.
from questioning conventional wisdom to exploring the power of food as information.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. It has. But I think what's emerged most strongly is a sense of empowerment. We're not just passive recipients of information.
Right.
We have the ability to, question, to learn, and to make choices that truly support our well-being.
Absolutely. And speaking of making, informed choices, one source really emphasized the importance of becoming savvy consumers of health information.
Sure, so crucial in today's world.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with messages about, health and nutrition from every direction, media, social media, even, well-meaning friends and family. It can be overwhelming trying to sift through it all.
It really can. It feels like everyone's got an opinion and they're all convinced they've got the answer.
Right.
So how do we even know who to trust?
That's where critical thinking comes in.
Right.
This source really stressed the importance of developing those critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, health information.
So not just blindly accepting everything we hear, but really taking the time to assess the information, ask the right question.
Yeah.
And look for, solid evidence.
Exactly. It's about understanding how to evaluate the, credibility of sources, recognizing potential biases, and looking for information that's, actually backed by scientific research.
Like being a health detective.
Yeah.
But that can feel daunting, especially for those of us who aren't, scientists or medical professionals.
It definitely takes effort, but, there are resources out there to help us navigate this landscape.
Like reputable websites, books, and, podcasts like ours.
Yeah, exactly.
That aim to break down, complex information in an accessible way.
And don't underestimate the value of building a relationship with a qualified healthcare professional you trust.
Right.
Someone who can, help you personalize information and make choices that align with, your individual needs and goals.
So true. It's about Like finding those experts who resonate with you and who you feel comfortable, asking questions.
Yeah.
But one source also cautioned against like getting caught up in the never-ending cycle of, health fads and trends.
Ah, yes. The allure of the quick fix. It's tempting to believe that the latest, trendy diet or supplement or like exercise regime
Right.
holds the key to, effortless health and happiness.
It's understandable, right?
Yeah.
We all want to feel our best. And sometimes those, fads promise like amazing results.
Yeah.
But this research suggested that those like quick fixes often distract us from like the core principles of, healthy living.
Those foundational principles, or they might not be as, glamorous or exciting, but
Yeah.
they're the ones that truly stand the test of time. They're far more likely to, lead to lasting well-being.
So it's about coming back to those basics.
Yeah.
A balanced, whole foods diet, regular movement that
Yeah.
we enjoy,
Yeah.
stress management, prioritizing sleep.
Yeah.
Like those simple things that are so easy to overlook in our, busy lives.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that, true health is a journey, not a
Right.
destination.
Right.
It's about, continually learning, adapting, and making choices that support like our physical, mental,
Right.
and emotional well-being.
That's a powerful reminder. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to leave our listeners with a final, like, thought-provoking question
Oh,
inspired by the research you shared.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've talked a lot about, what to avoid processed foods,
Yeah.
environmental toxins, misleading marketing.
Sure.
But what if we shifted our focus to what we can actively, cultivate in our lives to support our health and well-being?
I love that reframing.
Yeah.
It's about moving from a place of like fear and restriction to a place of, empowerment and abundance.
Right.
So what comes to mind for you?
Well, I mean, we've touched on some of those, core pillars already.
Right.
Nourishing our bodies with, nutrient-dense whole foods,
Right.
moving our bodies in ways that, bring us joy,
Yeah.
connecting with nature, nurturing, meaningful relationships,
Mm-hmm.
managing stress, and giving ourselves the gift of like restful sleep.
Those are all, powerful practices that can truly transform our like health and well-being.
And it's about remembering that health isn't just the absence of disease,
Right.
It's a state of like vitality, resilience, and joy,
Mm-hmm.
It's about embracing like the interconnectedness
Mhm.
of our bodies, minds, and spirits.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that our health is a like precious gift. Yeah.
That we have the power to, nurture and protect.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive exploration. I hope it's, sparked your curiosity and inspired you to like embark on your own journey of health and discovery.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, keep asking questions, keep learning, and most importantly,
Yeah.
keep thriving.
Yeah.